Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode with Level Up with Gal. Today we have a badass, beautiful, amazing soul who I admire so freaking much joining the show. You guys are going to love him. Just wait. Welcome Fernando Marron, who is a psychic medium and teacher. Hi, Ferny. How are you doing feeling today?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I've been having some like weird medical stuff going on lately, so I'm trying to get that under control, but everything seems to be checking out okay. So I think that's going to be fine. But aside from that, I feel actually fine. I feel pretty good.
Good. Well, we're going to send you good vibes and thank you for
Thank
being here with
you.
us while you're going through, life, right? Or
Yes.
shit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Shit happens. Like sometimes shit happens in life and you just have to roll with it and do the best that you can while you're still like trying to achieve your goals and focus on what is important to you.
100%. Yes. So you guys can already relate to him. He's going through some real shit. So, Fernie, so can you share a little bit about who Fernie is and a little
Mhm.
bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Ferny. I mean, my name is Fernando Marron, but I go by Ferny just because that's just the nickname that I stuck with when I was a teenager. But I am a professional psychic, medium, and spiritual teacher, and my focus is to help people understand their own abilities, using my own abilities, my developed abilities, to help them to develop theirs, and also just to understand things that are they're going through in their lives, connecting them with loved ones in spirit as well, and then also just teaching them any spiritual, practical spiritual philosophies that I've been able to understand and implement throughout the years of my life.
I love that. We're going to dive in deeper, guys. So hold on
Mm.
tight. Fasten that seatbelt. so, so Fernie, so tell us a little bit about how your journey started. How did you get to where you
Mhm.
are today?
Yeah, my journey into doing this or being involved in this line of work, I think started when I was a teenager. Even though when I was a toddler, there are stories from my family about what I was doing as a kid, talking to individuals that were not there, having communication with beings. Even my birth was kind of an odd circumstance, but I didn't realize what was going on or what this was until I was a teenager, back in like the early 90s when I watched this show called Star Trek Voyager on TV. And on this show, there was a character named Kess who had this incredible ability to sense things beyond the normal physical senses. She also could move things with her mind, communicate telepathically. So she was able to do all these incredible things. And I thought that was so cool. And back then, I was just really open minded. I was coming out of a stage in my life where my faith, coming from a Hispanic Catholic background, was not fulfilling, was not really helping me to make sense of things, wasn't giving me the answers that I needed. So I was really open. And when I saw this show and I saw this sci fi series, it was just really intriguing. And after watching that show, I started asking myself, like, what were we capable of as human beings? What potential did we possess? And within a week of that questioning internally, I started having my first psychic experiences that just kind of blew me away. And that first experience started with a kitchen fire that almost killed me.
Oh
So
my,
it was a huge like wake up call, and I guess you could say psychic and spiritual awakening that prompted me to begin to seek answers. Like, what is this? How does this work?
mm,
Why is this happening? And coming from a Catholic religious background, the first thoughts were, oh, this is, something's wrong, or this is happening because I've done something bad, or, this is evil or something demonic. But when I began to really look into the source of what was going on, it became very clear to me that this wasn't anything like that. This was actually something that we all possessed. And I was getting the answer that I was prompted to ask, which is, what is our potential? And that's my work now. I focus on just trying to get people to understand what their own potential is as well. But it was a journey. And back then, I didn't really know what psychic ability was. And actually, fast forward a few years, I didn't really realize what a psychic was until I saw Sylvia Brown on the Montel Williams show. And I saw her doing readings for people in the audience. And I was like, whoa, like that is so cool. Like I want to, and when I saw her on there, I'm like, that's who I am. That's what I'm supposed to be. That's my path. And it's been a journey ever since to really go in this direction and to develop and put some serious hard work into it.
Right. Wow. You said Mom's Home Jordan. I was like, I remember that show.
Yeah, it was like every time Sylvia was on, I mean, she was on there like a few times a month. So I was like, I was watching it. I was like, what is she doing? What is she talking about today?
Right. You're like, that's gonna be me one day.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Right. Wow. Love that. No, thanks for sharing that and, and bring that in. So, for anyone listening who's like, what is a psychic? What is a medium? How
Mm.
would you describe that so they can understand?
Yeah, so we are all conditioned to operate from the normal physical senses. So we have our sense of sight, our hearing. Well, most of us have sight or hearing or taste or smell or a feeling, our emotional centers. So we have our normal human senses that we're acclimated to using. The psychic senses are the exact same senses, except they operate without being prompted by a physical engagement in your direct environment. In other words, for example, if I hold this up, this is like a cup with fluid in it, and I, drink through the straw. But on a psychic level, if I were tuning into something that is not there in front of me, what happens is the mind is going to do what it's designed to do, which is it reaches for information and understanding. So it will utilize your memory centers, it will utilize all of your senses in a way where it's relaying back information, but you don't have the answer right in front of you. But you're still getting the information. And so we're all doing this on a regular, consistent basis. Throughout our entire day, we are dealing with physical stimuli, whether it's through emotional responses to relationships or to physical responses to our jobs, stresses, our physical activities. But when it comes to the psychic senses, they are also still working in unison, and they're constantly working. So they're there, they're operating. Most people don't even realize that they are being psychic throughout the day, several times throughout the day, because they're mentally checked out. They're living from a surface plane of existence. Like, oh, I need to worry about my bills. I need to worry about my relationships. I need to worry about the way I feel. And so that's the culmination of where most people's daily experiences based out of. But when you're paying attention to your psychic senses and you're giving space or allowing that to operate the way it's supposed to, and you're paying attention, you start to realize that you're sensing other things throughout the day. And it all happens through the normal thinking processes or the thoughts that are generated by your mind.
I love how you explain that. So someone who's like, what the heck is a psychic and a medium
Mm-hmm.
can understand that. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard you say this before that everyone is psychic. So explain that a little bit. Is that true? And how does someone
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, everyone is psychic. Now, some of us are more inclined, some of us are definitely more sensitive to being psychic, just like some people are more predisposed to being incredible athletes or runners or joggers. People who are artistic have this incredible talent to be artistic, while others are more logic minded. So it just depends on the individual because everyone's at a different stage of ability. However, everyone has it. It's like saying, oh, I have skin and someone doesn't skin. No, most people have skin. I mean, for the most part, we all have some outer layer that is protecting us from our internal organs. So with our psychic abilities, they are there. They're constantly working, but most people are not paying attention to them. What happens sometimes is we get so conditioned to operating from that surface level of being that we are not trained to pay attention to what's going on in our minds. And so my job is to help people like tune in and start to activate or utilize those senses intentionally. So it's not just happening haphazardly. For example, let's say you're going through a normal day cleaning out your closet. You're like, I got too much crap. I need to go through my shit.
Mhm.
So you're going through your closet and you see a bunch of things that you're like, oh, this is super cute, but I don't want to just like give it to charity. I wonder if any of my friends would like this like shirt or this blouse. And then you
Mhm.
think of a specific person. Let's say you think of a Sally. Oh, Sally um, might like this. Then you're thinking of her, and then you start to remember the last time you saw her, and you're like, oh yeah, we were like, I remember we were at the beach like a month ago, and we went to have dinner, and we had like seafood. It was delicious, and I remember that. I need to call her up and maybe like get together with lunch for her, get together with her for lunch again, and give her the stuff that I want to give her. And then about an hour later she calls you and she's like, hey, you were on my mind and I was wondering if you want to get together and have lunch. And you're like, oh my god, I was just thinking about you and thinking about getting together with you. Well, what you don't understand is what's happened in that moment is the moment you started thinking about that person and you started triggering memories and experiences with that person, there is a signal that is sent to that individual. And so Sally might be going about her day doing work, being at work and doing stuff like that, and then she starts having the memory of of y'all's time together at lunch coming up. And at that point, she's like, oh, I got to get together with her. I haven't seen her in a while. We need to catch up. And not realizing that it's been prompted by the engagement with your energy because of what you were doing. So that's a form of telepathy. And it's very similar to when a spirit is communicating with me. Same thing. When they connect with me, there's this engagement with my mind where my thoughts, my emotions, my memories get triggered. And because I'm trained it, I'm aware that it's happening and I pay attention. And then I use that to my capacity. And that's how I help people. And so that's what happens with most people. It's happening on a regular basis. Most people just don't realize that it's happening or that they're actually doing it. And a lot of us growing up, we watch movies and shows on TV where they glorify and they idolize the way psychic ability works or how someone has that kind of ability. So you're thinking of like Marvel Comics or something from like the X-Men or something from the Sixth Sense, where it's a Hollywoodized, over dramatized version of what this is. But that's really not the way this works on a regular basis. It is a common experience that most people are having consistently. You just have to be aware of how it works and then engage with it and use it.
I love that. So it's like really moral of the story, pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention
Yeah.
to the signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the idea of like meditation. Most people, when they're trying to tap into their psychic ability or their intuition, they don't realize that it's really really easy to tap into. And so you read books and you follow people who are teaching this, and they create this whole like song and dance where you have to jump through all these hoops just to get this to work. So people are like, oh, you have to be initiated by some sort of like higher person with wisdom and spirituality, or you have to be born with this gift. And people like to call it a gift. I hate the word gift because it negates the hard ass work that I've put into this for the last 10, 15 years of my life. So it's not a gift. It's an established and developed skill that I've come to have now. But I may have been predisposed to call that a gift, but for the most part, it's hard work. And
Mhm.
that's what it takes. It takes practice and understanding to get it to work, to operate, just like with any singer. You know, professional singers, they didn't just decide, hey, one day I'm going to sing, and then they were successful and they made it, all the way to the top. Most people have to spend hours and hours and hours every single day putting effort and energy into using their skills and then refining and understanding to get that level of control, which is what I've been able to do. And even then, to this day, I don't think I'm at the top of my tier. I feel like I can take it a lot further, but I appreciate where I'm at in my journey and my ability, my skill set. I appreciate where that's at now, but it's a constant pushing it forward and trying to get it to the next level. And most people, all they have to do is just understand how this works, and you can do so through simple forms of like meditation. And most people think meditation is like I have to stop thinking and have no thoughts and then it's going to suddenly like
Yeah.
show up.
Mhm.
Not really, because when you go into that deep of a meditation, you kind of get out of zone of your thought processes. So you're actually kind of closing the door to that part of your ability, to that part of your potential. Now, granted, when I work with students, there's different types of exercises that I bring them through, and I give them a very basic bitch meditation because I don't want to make it too complicated. You don't have to have a great relationship with your spirit guide. You don't have to like summon the 5 ascended masters or like the 3 archangels. You don't have to do any of those like things that people have created as like hurdles to have to go through to get this to work. All you have to do is just like pay attention to your brain and what's going on in your mind and just start to understand. And once you start to pay attention, even just to the normal thought processes, you'll start to notice varying degrees of thoughts that start to occur. There's your surface level thoughts, your regular stuff every day. Then there's another layer of thoughts where it's subliminal and it's very subtle. And it's like, what am I feeling? What am I thinking? Why am I feeling that? That wasn't prompted by my last thought. And you start to notice that your thoughts have these mechanisms that kick in here and there. And then there's also an inner knowing that comes along with that, which is most people's level of psychic ability, which is a intuition. But most people who have that inner knowing or just like have this sudden experience, It's not a developed skill. It's this random thing that has happened because of something that has occurred in the energy matrix or the energy field that we're all connected to. So if something is happening on a significant level, a lot of us who are more sensitive are going to pick up on that. And we may not understand the dynamics of what's going on, the specifics, but we may feel something or know something's coming. But if you develop this ability, you'll start to get more details about what is going on and you can control it.
Wow, how cool is that? No, thanks for
Hmm.
that in-depth and how to compare it to everyday life, right? Because when
Hmm.
people, hear the word psychic or medium or anything spiritual, right? I use the
Hmm.
word spiritual because people are like, no, pump the brakes. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm scared,
Right. Right.
And, and hearing you describe it and talk about it, I love how it's everyday life. It's not that
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, you can really use it to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. I like, for example, right now with the medical stuff that I'm dealing with, I have this feeling that it's either connected to my thyroid or it's connected to my heart chamber. And I'm like,
Mm,
something's off. Something feels a little bit weird. And that's where I'm headed mentally about it.
yeah.
But going to I had to go to the ER the other day because my blood pressure was sky high. And I was like, what is going on? And every test in the book says that I'm in perfect health and I shouldn't be having this issue. But I'm having this issue. And I'm like, I feel like it's something else. And what I think it is not been tested for yet. So I'm like, okay. So when I go to the doctor today, I'm like going to be prompting my doctor, hey, can you run like a thyroid number 4 comprehensive panel? Because maybe this is a little more complex than the test that you did. And maybe we need to consider me going to a cardiologist because if there's something going on with my heart or the chambers, if it wasn't picked up in the ER, maybe it's something else. But it can help you to survive. And this is what it's designed to do. Our psychic ability, our ability to sense things, is designed to help us survive. This is why animals flee when there's going to be an earthquake, because they know something is coming and their internal mechanism is saying, danger, get the hell out of here. And it's helping them to survive. So, this is a survival mechanism that we were all born with.
I love that. It's so true. It's like,
Mhm.
I always think of like a Disney movie, right? All the animals are gone, It's like, where are they going? Us
Yeah.
humans are like, oh, let's go see, right? And then
Yeah.
those people that die in the movie first, could you go see?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, no, I love that. So did you always know that, you had this ability like as a little kid, or was it later you started to notice?
I didn't start paying attention or realizing what this was until that incident with the kitchen fire where I
Mhm.
almost died. That prompted me to start to look for answers. Like, what is this? How does this work? And this was in the 90s. So this was before we had you know, cell phones and social media. So back then you go to the library, like, okay, I need to find
Yeah.
out what this is. Go to the library or hope that like an unsolved mysteries episode comes on that explains something. So you didn't have as many resources, and I had to go off of old literature and old information. And most of it was based in spiritualism, where it's this belief system that was created to help people understand what was happening because modern science and also religious systems were not explaining this. So spiritualism kind of developed back in the UK and evolved into its own form of religion, I guess you could say. Now, spirituality today is an offshoot of spiritualism, but back then they kind of just theorized what was going on and then they explained it through a belief. There was nothing to really back it up. Now we have opportunities to look into the data and find out why is that happening or what's going on here or what may be prompting that within the mind. And there are real ways of measuring that there is something going on. For example, a couple of years ago I did this experiment where I bought this device. This device is used for scientific studies where it basically measures the brain waves that are happening within your mind. And so it checks for your beta, your alpha, your theta, and your delta. Beta being the most active brainwave. So when we're doing math equations and doing regular work every day and thinking and processing stuff, beta is usually the most activated brainwave. And then we have alpha, which is more relaxed state. And some mediums and psychics who have been tested publicly on television, Teresa Caputo on the Dr. Oz show, so did Tyler Henry, they were expressing or showing more alpha waves and some theta waves.
Mm.
Theta is a deeper wave that is produced usually through deep meditation. And then delta is when you're asleep. So you shouldn't even have any activity going on other than your dream state. when I did this experiment and I did it live on Facebook and on Instagram, and I showed people what was going on in my brain at the time that I was doing readings for people, it showed that I wasn't even activating my beta brain waves, which was ridiculous because I'm like, how is beta not being activated? Because I'm thinking a lot, I'm processing data. That's what you supposed to be happening. But instead, I had higher levels of alpha and extremely high levels of theta waves, which are produced during meditation. And so it clearly indicates, the data shows that there's something going on there, and it's scientifically validated by the instrument and this device that was designed for clinical studies. So there's something going on there. And there's other ways to test for this, but with the scientific community, they're very black and white about everything. For
Mm.
example, let's say there's a card and the card has a square on it, and they're like, okay, we want you to sense what's on this card. We're not going to show you what it is, but sense what's on this card. And if I suddenly started having memories of an episode of Star Trek where there is an episode where there's this villain that are known as the Borg, and they operate from this cube shaped ship. It's a cube and it's this big ship in space. So if I just suddenly had that pop up, that memory could pop up, I would be telling them, well, what I'm seeing is something that reminds me of like a Borg cube, because I'm reminded of this episode with the Borg and space. So I'm thinking this might be connected to space or space bite or something laser or a cube. But because I didn't say square and I said all of these other things, and that's not what's on the card, by default, I would be incorrect and that would be wrong, even though I'm
Oh.
specifically clearly seeing a cube in my mind. So the brain is operating from a place of meaning and understanding. It is trying to provide us information, and we don't experience things two dimensionally. You are not a flat picture of existence. You are a three-dimensional individual who has depth and meaning. You have experiences. You have information stored in your mind. You have emotions. There's so much depth to you. So what science is asking us is to just sense what you are as a flat two-dimensional thing based on a picture. But what the mind does is what it's supposed to do, which is help us to understand what something is. So it's not just going to show me an image of you. It will probably give me instead versions of the answer based in the depth of who you are as a three-dimensional being. So my brain is going to do more than just give me this basic two-dimensional idea of what science is expecting me to get. And that's where the testing gets a little complex, because it isn't really giving us the opportunity to prove that this is real. It's only giving us, hey, if you don't walk a straight line, then you're wrong. But this doesn't operate within the confines of a straight line. This operates in a spherical way. So that's completely goes against the nature of how scientific experiments would be conducted.
Yeah, wow. That was like a lot of good information. How interesting is that?
Hmm.
There's a lot of gray, but you're
Yeah.
right. Like in the science world, or actually in a lot of people's brain, it's like,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't exist because it's in a
Yeah.
gray area, right?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
always hear people say, well, I can't physically touch it. So
Yeah.
psychic and mediums aren't real. And
Right.
I watched you, like it's amazing, right? And so what would you say to someone's like, seeing is believing and feel touching it? What would you say to something like that? Like, what would
Yeah,
you
I mean, oxygen, we don't see oxygen, but it's
Mhm.
there. It's a part of our everyday experience, and we would die without it. So
Do that.
that's just
That's
one
true.
example, right?
Yeah.
Emotions, love. Love is a very significant experience that a majority of the people on this planet have, and yet
Mhm.
science hasn't proven the existence of love because there's no scientific experiment designed to to understand that, to validate that. So there's a lot of things that science still is catching up with. Particle physics and um, different types of physics now are catching up, and they're starting to show that there are things happening in this world that don't have physical parameters to be measured by. So there are things occurring within that level of reality that we're still just finally realizing. It's interesting because a majority of psychics will be either female, people who are artistic or eclectic, people or gay men, and emotional men. A majority of the standardized version of a male, which is this person that operates from logic, very one sided. There's no gray; it's black and white. they don't really get to experience or pay attention to and realize that they're doing this because they are so checked out and they're operating from that surface level of reality. But women have this ability, gay men as well, to really be more sensitive to emotion, because it's a part of the cultural norm. And so for myself as a gay man, it's easier for me to use my emotional centers to help me to understand things from a psychic perspective, from an intuitive perspective, because I'm designed to be more sensitive to that, just like women versus the standard version of a male.
Yeah, I love that, and I love how you describe that. You're like, "You can't see love, but your ass is part in love," right? So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's
Oh,
odd because it's interesting. When I started doing this, I used to do it in person, and
mm,
I used to have people coming in person. But then over time, I switched over to digital or to virtual only, and then that was right before the pandemic started. So I was already ahead of the game before this started happening. And people wonder, like, how are you even able to get a read off of someone or send something because you're not even there in person? I'm like, well, how are you able to send an emoji to someone and they feel the love that you've sent, or the anger, or the how you're expressing yourself? How are they able to feel something if you're not there in person? So same thing, like, it's an intent and a connection. We're all connected on a subatomic, like, energetic level, and that connection is been there from the get-go.
yeah, I love how you explain that. So for anyone who's skeptic, yeah, like, think about that the next time. You know, we all use emojis, so let's
Yeah,
keep it real.
right.
You know? So,
Yeah,
wow, I really
yeah.
like that you're able to explain it in a way for people listening or who's gonna be watching to understand that it's not creepy, it's not scary, and it's not
Right,
fake. But you do have
right.
to be realistic and not get scammed by people who are faking it,
Right.
right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think most people don't have a realistic view of what this is. And people like myself have been idolized and put on a pedestal.
Mhm.
And those of us within the psychic industry have not helped that either. We've contributed to that delusion and that misunderstanding, because some of us want the attention. Some of us want to be glorified. Some of us want to be praised. And for some of us, it's our source of income. So we have to create that illusion. It's just like the church and all of that. They create the illusion that they're the only ones in power that can control the connection between you and God, or you and source. So you need to pay us our money so that we can continue to help you with your connection with God. And that's not required. You have a direct line to the divine, whatever you consider the divine to be. So with us being psychics, some of us are just really good at doing this. Some of us are somewhat good, but we want the attention, and we get put on a platform or a pedestal, and we get all this like glorification. And there's a lot of people who are scammers in this industry, where they are doing cold readings, or they are trying to take advantage of people who do not understand what this is and how this works. And so every time I deal with a new client, I have to basically condition and retrain them to
Mhm.
understanding how this works. And then I give them an understanding of how I operate, how I conduct my readings, what they can expect from me, what I can and cannot do. So it's very clear. I'm not going around telling people, hey, I'm 100% accurate. No, no, in no profession has a 100% accuracy rate. Like, doctors are not 100% accurate with saving lives and curing diseases. Meteorologists are not 100% accurate with figuring out the weather and being able to tell you what's going to happen from one day to the next. And they have all of the scientific instruments in the world. They have data that validates their professions. I don't. And so I can't go around telling people, hey, I'm 100% accurate. I'm not. I'm a human being. And a lot of this is interpretive, because even if my brain is sensing something and it's giving me very clear details, my interpretation of that data is where it can go awry. So I have to be careful with how I express or explain things to people, because my interpretation could be wrong. And that's where I could fail to do what I'm supposed to do.
Right. Wow. Yeah, you're right. Because the weather's crazy. It's never ever
Hmm.
right. You know, I like that, yeah, you keep it so real and honest, right? And like, you might be wrong, but you set the expectation is what I'm hearing
Right.
from the get go.
Hmm.
You
Right.
know, and like, hey, this is what you're gonna get. This is what you're getting with me. You want
Yeah.
to continue?
Yeah.
Right. Let's go. You know, I like.
Yeah.
And so what would you say something like what can they look for to know that this person's legit and not a scammer? And you know, like how
Hmm.
because so many I've heard people like, oh, I went to so and so, and I'm like, was it anything even right? Well, I paid them
Right.
hundreds of dollars and nothing's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I always suggest going based off of reviews and reputation, because that should be a clear indicator of what's going on. So just going off of reviews, making sure that they're not just on one review site, maybe on multiple review sites, because that's a way to kind of validate that
mhm,
they are essentially serving the purpose that they're meant to serve, and that people are coming away with predominantly positive experience or a good experience. Not all experiences in doing readings is going to be a positive one because, people want to hear what they want to hear. And if they don't hear what they want to hear, they are not going to like the read or the psychic. So if a person goes and checks reviews, that's one way of realizing whether this person is legit or not. I always recommend looking for evidence of their ability. There's a reason why I do so many live events and I have so much content online because I want to make sure people have a clear idea of what I do, what I don't do, and seeing the evidence of what I can do. So with my lives in the moment, each person that I pick who comes on video, I've never met them. I don't know them. There are some people that I've met or known, but for the most part, most of them are strangers, people who are just tuning in for the very first time, and I have to do what I have to do and use my abilities. And people get to judge or grade whether I'm legit or not based on what I'm able to sense in the details. If ever I am having a prediction, I post it publicly. And if I'm right, great. I follow it up so people understand what happened right afterwards. And people can go to my website, and I have a dedicated page on my site that shows people these predictions that I've made over the years and the evidence to back it up and the receipts. I say, I've got the receipts to prove what the hell I'm saying. So check out my receipts. A lot of people who are psychics or mediums are afraid of providing receipts because there is not one way to do this, and there's not one right way to do this. Most of us are figuring it out as we go along, which is what my book that will be coming out later this year is going to be about. It's kind of creating a standardized process and way for people to tap into their abilities and to use this so that they can expect consistent results on a regular basis. So the psychics online, they should have some evidence or something that shows what they can do or how they do it. So reviews, evidence through videos, and clips that you can see. And when I'm wrong, I own it. Like, you can see the predictions that I've made that did not come to pass, and that's okay. I'm allowed to be wrong. I'm allowed to make mistakes, but the majority of what I'm putting out there is still valid, and it gives evidence to what I can do. So those kinds of little signs are huge indicators. Also, making sure that they just have standard business practices. I don't really recommend like doing business through like text message or private message. Like, there should be a legitimate website, and going through a payment processor and having policies clearly posted, and then sticking to those policies whenever possible, because at the end of the day, it is still a business that has to be conducted, and that person doesn't have clear business practices and mechanisms for how their business operates. That's a huge indicator that either they're just starting out and they don't have enough to really back up their base, which is okay, it's understandable, or that they're not legit and they're trying to screw people over.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of good nuggets there. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like that. And you mentioned like with business. So how is life being an entrepreneur? And I know you also said you had to practice and practice. So
Mm-hmm.
how was your journey to where you are today doing your thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I used to be a store manager for many years at Starbucks. So that's where I started. And even during that period, I only expected to be at Starbucks for like 3 years, and it ended up being like a 13-year journey. So in throughout those years, I really had wanted to do this for such a long time because this really was my passion.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand how it could be sustainable because most of the psychics that I know, that I personally know, don't do this full time. They do it on the side, they have a full time job, and they never really go full time. Only a very few have gone full time, and that's because they've either gotten on television or on radio. So that's given them credibility, which has given them the advantage of being able to go full time. What I decided to do is to use my business savviness with managing a business, running a store for the company, and putting this to practice in my business in the way that I operate from a professional psych medium standpoint. So in 2014, I decided to go full time and do this as my profession. And I gave myself a year to transition over from being Starbucks to doing this. And I was exhausted. I was like, going and working at Starbucks like 40 plus hours a week, because when you're a manager, you're working a hell of a lot of hours and you're responsible for that store. So if someone doesn't show up, you got to be there in their place. And with any retail service industry, that's just a part of the dynamics of being in that industry. So I was trying to transition away from Starbucks and doing this, and I started taking clients in the afternoons. I'd go to Starbucks, do my full job, and then I'd come home, take a shower, eat something really quickly, and then I'd start doing readings. And I would do about 3 or 4 in the evening. I was exhausted for like 1 full year. I was so tired. I was exhausted because I didn't have a lot of time to spare. So I didn't really get to see my family very much. My partner didn't get very much time with me. I didn't even get a lot of free time to just veg and do nothing. But it was important to me to do this. And so I put in the effort and the energy. And 1 year later, after really hitting it hard, I was able to transition and make the switch. And since then, it's just continued to evolve and grow. And now I'm at like the height of my professional life with my business. So it's been an incredible journey. And along the way, I learned a lot of things about this business, this industry, that I've been trying to teach others who want to do that full time as well. And I've tried talking to some of my friends who still do it part time, like, hey, you can do this full time
Yeah.
and make way more money and have way more legitimacy and do it in a way where you're not screwing people over. You're just
Yeah.
working and busting your ass and putting the effort into it. And they're too afraid, they're too scared to go
Yeah.
full time because they like stability and they don't want to take the risk, which is understandable. But I always try to push people, like, if you want to do this, you can totally do it full time. But every single client, every single appointment, every single e-reading, I use as practice to develop and push myself. And to this point, I mean, on average, last year I did about, I want to say, 2,600 appointments. And that's not including e-readings or the lives that I do. So throughout the years, I mean, I probably already read for over 30,000 people.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like 30,000 people you help.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And you're just getting started. Really. Like that's amazing. Like where your journey. And I love how you explain, hey, you were doing like two jobs at one time. It is
Mm-hmm.
a process to get to where you
Mm-hmm.
want to be. Because they might see you today and be like, Fernie is successful,
Yeah.
but you're not there. Like it didn't happen yesterday.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And I
Yeah.
push myself a lot harder. I mean, because I come from that background in Starbucks, I'm used to like, oh, 20 lattes in 2 minutes. Got it. I can do that. And I'll pop it out. And so with my readings, I do a lot more readings than a typical psychic or a medium would do. I mean, most we usually do about 4 to 6 a week.
Mhm.
I do about 40. So that's a significant difference in the amount of like people that I read for. But it's so worth it because it just pushes your ability and develops it. And every single time I'm paying attention, when I do lives, I'll go back and watch the live, not because I want to glorify myself, but because I'm watching what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing, and I'm remembering what I was thinking and how could I have said that better? How could I have gotten that point across more effectively? So I'm trying to refine my ability as best as I can so that I can keep pushing it, keep developing it. And in the process of doing that, throughout this journey, I've understood all of these mechanisms that are not explained in common books that are out there about psychic development. Most of the books that I've read, they give you a few consistent ways of developing through meditation or through automatic writing, but they don't really talk about the stuff that's going on in your brain and what you should be paying attention to in your brain, how you should be thinking, how you should be processing information. They're more focused on, oh, well, you have to connect with Archangel Michael, or, oh, you have to understand that the angel numbers. Like, nobody sat the angels down and said, hey, what do the numbers mean? Nobody did that. That was just put in a book, got popular, and now it's everybody's like source of like, oh, well, that's what these numbers mean when you see them. No, they don't mean that. But
Yeah.
that's the hype. That's what's happened. And so you have these established psychics and mediums who are teaching very basic levels of intuitive development, but aren't really going into the meat of the material. And that's what my book is going to be about. Because I'm like, no, I'm a game changer. I'm going to like change the industry. So because it's time, and most people do not utilize their abilities. And I think that if we all just tapped into our abilities and connected with each other on a deeper, more profound level, I think there would be a lot less craziness in this world.
Yeah, I totally agree in that. Yeah, because some people live on very surface, right? Just like you
Mm-hmm.
ask somebody, "Hey, how are you today?" Instant answer is always good, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
honey, don't lie, you're freaking dying inside. How are you really
Yeah.
doing? You know? And we're
Yeah.
conditioned to just like, "You're good."
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's like, how will you tell how you really feel? But they don't want
Mm-hmm.
that judgment, right? That's all that comes through, and then you're just like dying, and you to the world, you're great,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So I love what you're doing in your mission. Ooh, let me know when that book comes out. I'm buying
Yeah,
it.
it's been a process. It's been a journey. I've been working on it for almost 2 years. I started it on my own, and I got some help with like the editing and stuff. I came from the hood, so I come from Houston's
Yeah.
hood side of town, and I didn't get the best education. I think I didn't start really having proper communication skills until I started watching Star Trek, because it forced me to have to look up words like what the hell does that mean, and I had to look up certain words and all of that. But over time, I've developed my ability to express myself and to speak in a way where I can get a point across, and I try to put that on paper. But of course, my grammar, some of the way that I write, it still needs to be edited. I need help with that. So after 2 years of trying, and then last year was a kind of an intense year because of some stuff that I was dealing with my mom. So I didn't get a chance to work on my book last year at all. And I'm like, I need to. And in my mind, they're like, hey, you need to get this done, get this done, get this done now. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
trying. It's okay. So I decided to ask for help, and I asked a ghostwriter to help me, and that's who I'm working with to get the book out. So hopefully, if everything goes to plan, it should be out by this fall.
Oh, how exciting. Oh my gosh, I resonate so deeply with that because I grew up in the hood too, and my grandma is not that good. I'm always telling my
Yeah.
husband, caption, does it make
Yeah.
sense? Did I use the
Yeah.
right word?
Yeah. Well, and
Oh,
for me to get to this point in my life, I've talked to some of my students, and I'm like, I've been able to achieve so much, and I'm in a good place,
mhm.
financially, I'm in a good place. I live in a very beautiful area where I get to see the mountains and the views and the stars at night. I mean, it really is a dream experience life for me to be here. And I got here all on my own without really having a proper education or college education. I think I dropped out like in my first semester because of drama that was going on with my mom and my sister. My mom being schizophrenic and having to deal with her issues, and my sister who was bipolar at the time and had just moved in with us. So I was having to deal with all of that, and I didn't have the bandwidth to really deal with school. So I dropped out. And so being able to get to this point in my life story without going the traditional route is like, for me, it's like, wow, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, big kudos to you because,
Hmm.
and anyone listening, like if Fernie can do it, so can you. And look at
Hmm.
the way you grew up in your
Yeah.
background. You don't have to
Yeah.
grow up in this perfect home, wherever the hell that is, right? To
Yeah.
be like successful.
Yeah, and it's part of that hustle mindset, but in a different way. People think hustle means, oh, I'm gonna like do this and do that. Like when I talk to people, like I'm an entrepreneur and I do this and I do that. Okay, you say you're an entrepreneur, but do you actually have a business?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no. I'm like, okay, so you're just an idea person. You have nothing constructive that you've done that validates that title. So, okay, just making sure we understand that. So people think that hustle mindset is like thinking of things and thinking of great things. No, that's not hustle mindset. Hustle mindset is coming up with a great idea, putting everything you have into it. And if it works, then refine, refine, refine. If it doesn't work, refine, 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 and then rework it. Because this was my third business attempt. Before this, I had a Reiki business, which was doing fine, but it wasn't giving me the validity and the it wasn't fulfilling me in the way that my current work and job does. And before that, I had like a smudging kit business where I was trying to like promote smudge kits, etc. So it was a journey of practicing and using different approaches to try to like promote and build up a business. And this was the one that stuck because it's the one that I cared the most about and the one that I put the most effort into. But it's not about like, oh, I'm gonna just like care about something and that's hustle. No, it's like putting in the time and energy. Some of my friends who don't want to go full time don't want to add extra hours to their workday because they just want to come home, clock out, come home, and be lazy. And I get that, I understand that, but that doesn't mean that you really want to do this. I mean, it means you really don't want to do this because you're not putting in the effort or the work. I put in the effort, the hours to work, and I'm constantly learning and growing. And if I have a bad experience or a shitty day, I don't let that stop me. I don't let that keep me from pushing myself forward. And I do. Some days are shitty, not a whole lot, because I'm really good at managing energy and maintaining that higher vibratory standard. That doesn't mean I'm like this peachy, like all the time happy person, or peachy like all the time idealized mindset. Like it's not that way, but I have a standard that I operate from, and that standard helps me to get to the next stage, get to the next level, push myself more, push myself more. And you have to push yourself in anything that you do if you really wanted to go somewhere.
Yeah, that is so true. Psychic or not, right? Anything
Yeah.
that you're doing is
Yeah.
gonna just be handed to you. So many people
Yeah.
waiting, right? Like one of my friends, like, I'm gonna be a supermodel one day. I'm like, honey, you guys gonna walk in the mall. They're gonna be like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be
Yeah,
a
like, what do you what
supermodel. Like, it doesn't
exactly.
work that way.
What do you think is gonna happen? You know, it's like I'm like, when people say I'm doing this, I'm a full-time psychic and a medium, but I'm not really getting the clientele base or the traffic that I need. And I'm like, okay, well, do you have a website? Well, no. Okay, do you spend any money on marketing or advertising? I'm like, because even though I've developed, I don't need the marketing or advertising at this point. I could, effectively still do it and do it well, but um I had goals and I'm like, nope, I need to push myself. So 60% of my business comes from word of mouth, people who've had readings and share the word. And then 40% comes from marketing and advertising, either on Google or on Instagram or TikTok. So there's a method to the madness, and you have to get smart with those kinds of things. Are you an LLC? No. Well, you need to probably be one because people get crazy and some people want to try to sue for something stupid that they want to blame you or hold you accountable for, but this is their life and they're making bad decisions. So you have to think smart and really put into place things that will help you to have the best experience if you're going to do this full time as a professional.
Yeah, and I like how you bring the business side in it because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people they have this big dream and they
Mm-hmm.
start, but then they're like, I don't know how to run a business.
Right.
Shit, right?
Right.
And a lot of psychics, from what I've seen, they don't really talk on that side. So I like that
Mm-hmm.
you're putting that in because that is realistic. Without a
Mm-hmm.
business side, you can read all day,
Yeah.
but you need to be able to manage, right? And be
Yeah.
able to actually bring in real money and income to live. So you can do it full time, like how you're doing it. So Fernie,
Exactly.
someone's listening to you, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I want to be like Fernie. Like I want to develop my abilities and read and live in this beautiful place like Fernie described. How can they start?
Yeah, so I recommend, now I'm going to plug some of my stuff because that was, some of it was designed to help with the specific stuff.
Yeah.
On my website, if people go to my website, fernandomarron.com, they will find a few options that will help them to get there. I have a free course on YouTube, and I spent a good amount of time putting this course together to help people just get the basics done, because most people are coming into developing with all kinds of ideas and preconceived notions about what this is and what this isn't, either because they learned bad habits from other teachers or because they just tried to figure things out on their own and they watched too much TV and shows that kind of like glorify what this is. So I designed a course that's free that people can go to because it will help them to get the basics out of the way. Now, if I want to take it even further, I do offer, with the business side, I offer a course that I put together with a friend of mine who's also starting her own business. And it goes through everything you need to know, like every single thing that you could possibly run into, just to make sure that you work smarter, not harder, because I'm a lazy person by nature. I don't really want to do stuff. So I want to make it easy for myself. And I just want to show up, do the reading, and everything's taken care of. So there are automatic processes in place for, anywhere from scheduling a session to weeding out the bad apples or the bad clients that may come to you, to, handling finances and money, to making sure that you can just focus on the reading and not have to deal with all this excess stuff. So that course is designed for people who really do want to go full time, and they will be able to go full time within 1 or 2 years if they do everything that is in that course. So that's on my website, and it's how to go full time with your spiritual business. The other option also that I offer people is I've been working on these smaller courses where the same stuff that's going to be in my book, I kind of go into in more depth. And so those are courses that have been implementing monthly or bi-monthly, that are also available online on my website as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I've taken your free course. So anybody listening, go watch it because there's so much good knowledge there for free. So I love that. And if someone wants to work with you one on one, they
Mhm.
can as well, right? From your website.
Yeah, so I've been a bit frustrated because I want people to practice. I want people to
Mhm.
practice as much as possible, but they're not doing it because they either don't have the best way of going about that, or they have to pay for something, and sometimes it's costly. So I do offer one-on-one, like really focused coaching for people who can afford that, because it is a bit pricey for people who are on the lower income spectrum, but I want everybody to be able to develop this. So if people want like more one-on-one with me, of course, go with the one-on-one option to develop with me, because I'm going to be working you through these practices, and I'm going to be helping you understand your ability, how yours is working, what's happening with your specific sensing mechanisms. So that's the one-on-one for people who really want to take it to that next professional level. But I'm planning on starting a free monthly practice, um, course workshop where every month it'll be free to the public. All you have to do is just sign up. You'll get a Zoom link, and then it'll be a room full of people. And I may pull some people in as volunteers to kind of use them as examples as we're going through the practice exercises. But this is my way of trying to just help even more because I don't think enough people are practicing their abilities. And this is a way to kind of get into a consistent rhythm of doing it on a regular basis.
I love that. And it's just like goes right into your free lives, right? Because you do that
Hmm.
twice a week
The free
and then
lives. Yeah.
allowing people to come in and practice.
Hmm.
Just a good freaking human being.
Oh.
Got chills. So I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. Because I'm like, follow a lot of psychics and you don't really see that, where it's where you can just come together and kind of work together and actually have a support system.
Hmm. It's
Yeah.
important. It's important because I think some psychics, I mean, they don't have good business skills. They probably can't afford to do something for free.
Yeah.
I have a good business skills and I'm very blessed in where I'm at. So I'm like, I got to do this because I need to change things. People
Mhm.
need the opportunity.
No, I love that so much. So you have your free course. They can work with
Mhm,
you one-on-one. I know
mhm,
you have workshops because I take you one.
mhm.
You have that available, free readings you offer. So if someone wants to book like a private reading with you, they can do that on your website as well, right?
Yes, correct. Everything is through my website, and I have articles there that talk
Mhm.
about the different things that I've experienced through this ability as well. So they can go to my website. They can find my podcast, which I'm about to revamp and completely reinitiate as well. I'm also going to be putting out more articles. I'm going to be putting out more content and stuff. So anything that they want to know, they can get through my website.
I love that. And your book's coming out. Going to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So amazing. So everything. So do not get scammed because I've seen a lot of fake
Yeah.
profiles of you.
Yeah.
So go to your website.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to learn more and get a reading. And then if they wanted to book, they didn't want to actually have like a mediumship reading. They want to just like
Mm-hmm.
a life reading. They can book
Yeah.
that with you as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's everything I offer. I try to make it simple for people. So
Yeah.
people can book like a life reading where I go over the four areas: health and wellness, finances, career and work and relationships. I offer the mediumship sessions. I offer spiritual energy coaching, which is if you're dealing with something spiritually or you're trying to understand your own spiritual nature or your own development on a spiritual level, we can go into that as well. And that includes like energy manifestation and law of attraction, all of those alignment based practices. I also just like for people who just want to ask me a few questions. There's a 15-minute Q&A. Hey, ask me what you want to know, and I'll give you what I can give you. And then the e-readings because we're in a world where a lot of people suffer from anxiety or the idea of like facing someone directly is just too overwhelming. So they can just book an e-reading and they will still have that experience with me, and I will give them what I can give them.
I love that. So and don't worry, guys. I'm gonna list all his stuff so you can find it. So you go to the right website and the right account. So tell everyone how they can find you.
So you can find me on my website for fernandomarron.com, FernandoMarron.com. You can also find me on social media. I'm on all the major platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and I think any new ones that may come out, I'm going to be on there as well. And my
Mhm.
handle is Ferny ESP, FERNYESP. And that's pretty much the easiest way to get a hold of me. And I'm usually posting stuff on there, keeping people up to date with stuff that's going on, my predictions and prophecies, dreams that I have that come to pass. Anything that they want to know, they can find it on social media.
I love it. And don't worry, I'll put everything there so you can just click it, follow him, and then learn more and develop more. So, what last piece of advice or thought will you give listeners, who are interested in this topic, are kind of afraid, but want to get more into the spiritual world?
Yeah, when you are going to dive into this, don't let fear affect your ability because a majority of people who start developing with me and go through the classes, some of the first things they experience is fear. And even when they begin to tune in to their inner abilities, fear will come up, a fear of opening the door to something they can't control, or their trauma will come up, which means you got to deal with this trauma. You got to process it. It hasn't been processed properly. So make sure that you pay attention to that as you start to develop and you open up to this. And don't be worried. Don't be fearful. If you have clear intention and you believe that you are aligned with a good experience, there are some things you will have happen during the sensing process that may not be pleasant or fun to experience, but it's human life. It's human, it's human. It's the human being. So don't let that deter you because, sometimes that could be frightening to experience, but it doesn't always have to be a negative experience.
Yeah, I love that. So fear, because fear stops everybody in their tracks at
Hmm.
anything. So I
Yeah.
love that last piece of advice. So thank you so much for coming on, Fernie, and
Oh,
sharing your journey and your services, your insights. You brought in so much good stuff. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
thank you, Mom. I appreciate that.